I need to ask Alan Mendenhall, who's joining us here on Florida's Voice, Senior Advisor, Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, heritage.org. We always appreciate a few minutes of his time. There he is. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm excellent.
I'm actually in Orlando, so I'm calling in from Florida.
You're in O-Town. Okay, as the kids like to
I'm in
say.
Oakland.
We call it O-Town, yep. So, first of all, it feels like this is a big reset in some ways, in that we're trying to close the loopholes. We're trying to do a lot of different things that caused past economic sanctions to fail. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I feel as if Iran is panicking more about this announcement than it ever panicked about the missiles and the military weaponry. So it's really interesting. We're going to target everything: shipping, aviation, all their money, all their banking, all their digital assets. This is going to be absolute economic warfare. And I think it'll be better for us because I feel as if with our stockpiles depleting and with energy prices up, that this is actually a much more economical approach. And I mean that not just as an economic, but also economical approach that will save us money. We've already got the Strait of Hormuz blockaded. I don't think it's really that big of a step to go in this direction. Now, the big question for me is, what does this mean for China? And I think Secretary Bessent was asked that today, and he said, "Look, we're after anybody doing business in China. This affects, and that with Iran, this affects, and that includes China."
Yeah, they made some things very clear. We played the clip earlier today. One of the things he also said is that the Treasury has mapped every node, every facilitator, every network. That's not something we heard before. That's almost calling to me to maybe even people who are, quote unquote, our allies and others who have circumvented the whole idea of sanctions, got around it while claiming they were still on board with it by having somebody do something with somebody to get it to where they wanted it to be. But knowing where those all are to close those loopholes, and then ultimately the threat of the being taken off the U.S. dollar. That's the one that kind of took me back a little bit, because when I hear something about the U.S. dollar and then that going away, it rings to me about the countries that are out there that would love nothing more than for there to be a different way of doing business other than the dollar, because that might be the only power that they might have against us, if that makes sense. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Well, it does, and the reason I think it makes sense is, especially with this national debt topping 40 trillion, is it's easy to say, well, the U.S. is in a position different from like Argentina or Greece, which defaulted and had to undergo debt restructuring because the dollar remains the world's dominant reserve currency,
Right.
and U.S. Treasury debt is essential to global financial markets. So, yeah, it totally makes sense that would be a big deal. But I think we're wise to the fact that Chinese banks and companies have been involved in Iranian banking networks, and that they help facilitate transactions. And also, China was like 90% of Iran's exported oil in 2025. So I would imagine it has figured out ways to keep purchasing oil at a discount from Iran, and figuring out at least IOUs or something. We'll continue to pay you if after the conflict you give us this or that. Who knows exactly what's going on through those informational channels. I certainly don't.
Yeah.
But given that China was also the world's largest importer of Venezuelan oil, the double whammy it's taking suggests that it's got to be frustrated, to say the least.
Yeah. And, I just wonder if they would be, to your point, if there's some kind of IOU, do they get on board, quote unquote, and say, look, let's get this over with. Let's get everything back to some place where at least we can continue to purchase from a regime that's actually, we don't care who the regime is. We just need what we need. So if this is going to make everything stable, let's just get this done. Maybe that's kind of a little bit of the thinking.
Yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe the pressure is actually on China. I haven't thought about that until you said it this way, but maybe that's where the pressure is truly directed, and that Iran knows that if China gets fed up and just says, we're done here, we're throwing up our hands, then Iran is done.
Yeah. And I just wonder, before we go to, this is something where I feel like how big in finance, in banking, in some of the things that we have done business as usual before, is this sort of the impetus as well, along with other things that the president, this administration has been doing to try to change that order of business the way it's been in finance, financially, how a lot of things go through London, a lot of things go through different places that have been there for a long time, tried and true. But now the president really wants to upend that and have a different kind of order financially.
Well, I think so. So he hosted last week this crypto summit that had crypto executives and regulators and tech finance guys. And I thought that the main occasion for that was this announcement of the SEC proposed reg that would clarify when the Commodities Futures Trading Commission regulates something versus when the SEC regulates something. In particular, we're talking about tokens on the blockchain and stuff like that, because you have this Howey test that's 80 years old and it's out of date, and you've got innovators that are trying to figure out, am I going to get regulated here when I do this particular investment? Is it a security or not? Well, maybe, just maybe, that meeting had a lot more to it. Maybe they were talking about this particular Iran situation and saying, hey, we need your help with some of the information that you've got, and the blockchain, how all this stuff works in ways we don't. Iran's already suffering from currency collapse, and it's got inflation between 70 and 90%. We need you, private sector, to help us finish off the deal here.
Right. Now, that's an interesting perspective. Didn't even think about that. All right, Alan, listen, great to see you again. All the best, and enjoy O-Town. I don't know what you do. Are you there? Is it business or otherwise?
It's the State Policy Network. SPN is meeting here. So all the conservative think tanks that are state-based are meeting here this week.
All right. And then you get a couple of rides. You squeeze in a couple of...
there is a, what do you call it? Water slide out of my window. It's tempting.
I was going to say, there are water slides all over. That could be a million different places in Orlando. It's like you turn around and there's another one. There are many. So there you go. It's like, well, enjoy it. And it's great to see you. We'll do this again. Okay.
You too.
That is Alan Mendenhall joining us here on Florida's Voice.